Flyers hockey is on the air.
Keith down by Lawton, 2-on-1. He's got Farabee on the other side. Lawton shoots. He scores!
It's time for the Fanatic Flyers pregame show on the Flyers Broadcast Network. Here's Jason Martinez, Brian Smith, and Chris Terrian.
It's Flyers game day. A way to start the week on a Monday as the Flyers host the St. Louis Blues at Wells Fargo Center tonight. And this is an occasion where the 2 points that are up for grabs, two teams from two different conferences, but both teams, St. Louis not that far out of it. Flyers in it, but looking to stay in it as the Devils fire their coach, and a lot of the competition lost yesterday for the Flyers for that third spot in the Metropolitan Division. But Bundy, the two teams that should both go out there and be able to match each other's desperation.
You'd absolutely think so. In St. Louis, even though, I mean, their record actually is better than 500 team all around. And what's interesting with them, we were talking beforehand, they go up and down, they play well, and then they don't, and they go into stretches where you see them go a lot of wins and then subsequent losses to follow.
We do not have Bundy, and we do not have Brian, so.
There we go.
Sorry, guys, that was not my fault.
But you know what? Late on the dial over there, huh?
Yeah. You know what? It's kind of busy up here, so all good. But you know, I was just saying, Jace, St. Louis is actually there. In terms of where they're 7 points out, but they had 2 games in hand on Nashville, who's in 8th spot. They're in 10th. So these are critical games. So I always look at the importance for the team. And as we were talking about, Flyers got a lot of help yesterday. They got a lot of help with the losses to Jersey and Pittsburgh, who Pittsburgh looks like they're done. Jersey's going to try to make a last-ditch effort here by firing Lindy Ruff today, as you just mentioned. But tonight, it's never really about the other team. If I'm the Flyers right now, it's about what they're doing. Continue taking care of their own business here at home, especially. So to me, what would look like as you're heading in a workable game that you can win by really putting your solid foot forward and doing a great job for your team. So it's important points for the Flyers to continue to move forward. The further in they get, the harder it'll be to eliminate them from that at least the 3 spot in the Metro, or the top 3 rather. And that's really what's ahead for both teams. But I expect a competitive game here today. St. Louis, again, where they look at it, they continue to win every next game they play. It becomes another must-win because they feel they're probably there. They are, and 2 games in hand, one of them here tonight, will be paramount for the Blues. So I look forward to a good hockey game here tonight.
Yeah, these teams got together in January, and it was one of those situations where the Flyers really could have just kind of mailed it in because it was an awful road trip, but they went out there and got 2 points, and it was one of those turning points, I feel like, of the season getting to be where it was right now. So they've had these gut check games before, and I think Saturday might have been a little one of them, even though it was an Ottawa team that certainly isn't top of the league this year. But any given night, the opponent's tough, and this team seems to be one that can step it up when they need to.
If you want to lose games in this league, play defense like the Ottawa Senators or the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah.
If you watched, Pittsburgh, Letang and Carson the other night, dude, that was worse than a beer league. Like, that was absolutely worse than a men's league, a plus 40 men's league. So, listen, this is where, you have to look at where teams are at. I'm sure the Devils Lindy Ruff will tell you, I didn't think I did a bad job coaching. My goalie couldn't stop a puck. So what I'm trying to say is everybody's dealing with something, and in terms of of who they are and what they are. But for this Flyers team, guys, I just like the way they handled their business. It wasn't great. They had as I say, the hockey gods shined down upon Tyson Forster in the last minute of the second period, and that gave the Flyers pretty much everything they needed to secure the 4-2 win with the empty net. So again, tonight you're going to see a team, I think, going to compete a lot harder than Ottawa did the other day. And this is going to be, again, it's going to be a lot from the start of this hockey game. Establish a forecheck and do the same things. I thought Ottawa had a hard time with some of the Flyers forechecking and quick plays the other night when they were executed. But the Flyers should be ready for a very, very good game here. St. Louis coming off a win.
Bundy, when you look at the Blues, they have one player that's a point-per-game player, and that's Robert Thomas, who's got 69 points in 60 games. But other than that, it's Bushevich. She's got 48 points in 58 games. Kairu's got 47 in 60. But you don't have that kind of one line or one couple of guys to focus on. And, they spread it around a good bit. How do you make sure that you defend this team properly, who's more kind of like the Flyers, a little bit by committee, as opposed to a team that's got some, heavy talent up top?
Yeah, that's a good question. And you know what? So if you look at their lineup, the top three guys are on the top line. And so that's 1, 2, and 3 in blue scoring. And I'll be honest with you, when I used to play and I played a top pair role, I loved that because I knew that was if we did our job on that top line, our team was going to have a good chance to win a hockey game that night.
Yeah.
If me and Desjardins and that top line were out against them, we could shut down that line. That left a lot of open space for your other players, and you have to know that. If you can do the job and you hold that first line in check, that opens up space for your other lines offensively, and it also opens up for the ability for your group to play a little bit more freestyle. Now, you don't want to do that. That's not what Torts preaches, freestyle hockey. There's a defensive accountability. But everything's loaded on that top line. And then, of course, in the second line, there's guys that, Braden Shen, as we were talking about earlier, 31 points in 60 games. He's probably going backwards a little bit. But he's been in the league a long time now, and he has a lesser team than he's had. But he's a guy that can power up the middle of the ice. And he'd be one of those threats for me, certainly in between the hash marks. So that's why it's important tonight for the Flyers. But top heavy on the top line of theirs, and then go after the rest.
You want to feel old real quick? Braden Shen's played 918 games.
Stop it.
Don't you feel old now?
Stop it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
It's nuts.
We talked about the Tyson Forrester good fortune the other night. It was a very good last minute of the period for him. And we've talked about a lot about how that obviously changes a game when it happens at that time. I mean, how much different is it in a locker room when you thought you were going to be going into the locker room tied, and now you go in there up by 2. I mean, that just changes the whole mentality coming into the third period.
And the way they did it too, right? Like, I mean, you got a kind of a seeing eye shot, maybe knuckled, I think hit something, falls its way into the back of that. Great. You're thinking, wow, we're going to get a 2-1 lead. This is perfect. And then you Ottawa just makes a play that is just unbelievably bad inside after a goal, and then that allows the breakaway to take place for Forster. And by the way, guys, the NHL is going to have to. I love the penalty shot goal. I'm glad the Flyers set our season record, and Forster made it 3-1.
Shouldn't have been called.
That was not a penalty shot penalty.
No, I agree.
I'm sorry. If you're just going to poke the stick and the guy loses it, that you used to actually have to chop a guy down or really trip him or hook him. That was not the right call, but we'll take it. And that gave the Flyers, you know what, guys, they needed that third goal because 2-1 the way they were playing. Ottawa was kind of a little loosey-goosey, and the Flyers were really hanging on, even at the end when the Ottawa goalie was pulled for a substantial amount of time towards the end. So, hey, listen, it's not about style points for me at this time of year. It's about execution, getting it done, and moving on with the 2 points. There's not enough time to look back at a game. You can only look forward and do what you need to do that night so that you're prepared for it.
Yeah, the thing is, you don't want to give up a goal in the final minute. You certainly don't want to give up a goal and then a penalty shot goal in the final minute of a period to go down now facing a 2-goal deficit. Bundy, let me ask you about Nick Seeler. You're a guy who played a lot of games in this league on the left side, and Nick Seeler is a guy that was never celebrated as the most skilled guy or any of that stuff. But the way he does carry himself, you can't help but admire it. I mean, the guy's career it looked like it was all but over. And then he gets this opportunity here to be a 7th defenseman, probably at best, and he's kind of parlayed it. It's trade deadline week. His name's been out there. I don't know what's going to happen this week with Nick Seeler. But just talk about what you've seen out of the player and the way he plays this game. I mean, he had 3 shot blocks on that 4-minute PK the other night, and just the way he plays the game and goes about his business.
So let me say, first of all, and I've raved about him all year, both him and Walker.
Yeah.
He commits his body, and when you're a teammate, you do that. Blocking shots is the best message, probably outside a guy who fights, to let your team know, hey, I'm here for you, man. Like, I'm willing to go through the pain and endure that stuff. I had to block a ton of shots in my career. That was part of my thing.
It sucks, doesn't it?
It's awful, and you know it's coming, and there's nothing you can do about it but that's what you do for your team. Here's my issue with Nick Seeler. I would love him back for as many years as he wants, but the financial number has to make sense. Because I'm going to tell you the way I look at the league now, there's too many players in the league that, I'll be honest with you, paying Nick Seeler $3 to $4 million is, for me, I'm not speaking for a GM, I wouldn't do that. I would go find another guy to redevelop and get that number down so you could save that money for something else. I love Nick Seeler. Yeah. I want to know, and there's a number that I'd be really satisfied with, but I can't pay Nick $4 million. That defeats the purpose of having a guy who could still be a third pair or seventh defenseman in a year or two as other guys escalate the lineup. I hope if anyone's listening, they understand that. I say it with a lot of passion. I love Nick Seeler, but it just depends how much money he's going to cost.
All right, buddy. Because you trash Sealer, we're going to ship you off to Snow the goalie.
Yeah, get out of here.
We got to take a timeout. We'll come back and we'll get you ready for Flyers and Blues right after this. You're listening to Flyers Game Day on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. Classic. Get him out of here. He's out of here.
Oh.
19th. It's Go Green Night, and the first 10,000 fans in attendance will receive a Flyers friendship bracelet courtesy of Constellation Energy. Get your tickets now, only at PhiladelphiaFlyers.com.
30.
Hi, I'm Brett Levin from MHS Lift. We've been providing an extensive line of lift trucks and material handling parts and service to the greater Philadelphia area for over 50 years. Our warehouse optimization services help increase productivity and operational efficiency for businesses across North America. Whether it be high-performance forklifts, pallet jacks, customized warehouse layout plan, we have the solution for you. Learn more about MHS Warehouse Solutions at MHSLift.com.
All right, Mike's hot.
MHS Lift, we deliver results.
This is the Fanatic Flyers pregame show on 97.5 The Fanatic.
We're back. It is Flyers Game Day. Brian Smith, Jason Martinez, as the Flyers get set to take on the St. Louis Blues. Brian, we have one of these unique nights here tonight. Do you know why?
Why is that?
It is a tribute video night. Tonight it'll be for Kevin Hayes.
I was going to say because it's a Monday, but you're also right. Kevin Hayes is making his return, and I think he probably gets a little bit of an unfair shake just to do the way last year went. I think you go back to when he came in here,
1920. Oh yeah, good year.
Yeah, I think so. It was nice. It was the summer of
AV's first year.
Yep. He came in as a guy that was, not going to be your top scorer. He was supposed to be, I think, the second line center was why he was brought in, and the number was what it was, but there weren't many other options that year for the Flyers. I do think a lot of people do forget how good this team was in 2019, 2020. I really wish I'd seen it make a normal playoff run. Obviously the season was dragged to a halt due to COVID, and then after a 3-month break, they went into the bubble, and they do win a playoff series, but a lot of folks don't even remember that it happens, to be honest with you. And then I do think COVID affected his tenure here, just the way the game was being not having COVID, but like the way the league was being run during the situation. So, I think he was definitely a good contributor while he was here in the early goings, especially. But it quickly became apparent that he wasn't going to play all that well in the John Tortorella system. It is what it is, and they were able to find a good deal for both sides, I think.
Yeah, I mean, in that 1920 season, 23 goals, 18 assists, 41 points in 69 games. And I'm totally with you. I think, had we got a chance to see that team in an uninterrupted run into the playoffs, it may have been far different. They were playing the best hockey in the entire NHL at the time of the pause from the new year to that point. And the thing is, with Kevin Hayes, can you believe that year, Bri, in that 69 games, he had 4 shorties? That was the thing I think that endeared him here the most was his. Now he took on a lot of risk on those short-handed goals. He hung a little high a lot and had a good stick and knocked some pucks down. before shorties that year for Kevin Hayes. He had 5 game-winning goals. He had a good run. All said and done, I mean, for the Flyers over 4 seasons, 253 games, 63 goals, 94 assists, 157 points. So it was a pretty successful tenure, but people looked at the number on the contract. And I think the thing that we forget about a little bit is that part of the reason why that deal was signed in the first place was because they knew Nolan Patrick wasn't going to be able to go.
Exactly. And also, when that deal was signed, you're expecting the cap to go up $2 or $3 million a year, and then it didn't for 4 years. It was a flat cap. I think we're just now this offseason, right? Is this not going to be the first significant jump?
Yeah, I think there was $1.5 million last year, but they're finally out of the escrow that the players deferred. Yeah.
So once that cap situation became stagnant, obviously you're looking at ways to move on. Hopefully, I think a lot of folks don't. Obviously, Kevin Hayes wasn't here as long as Danny Briere was. Didn't do the things in the playoffs that Danny Briere did, but people fortunately have forgotten that Danny was a cap amnesty buyout after the most recent lockout when the cap went down and every team got the 2 amnesty buyouts. He was a buyout because of that. So that didn't affect his legacy much at all. So it's again, I think it's he was a good soldier while he was here. And now I think it's he's in a good spot with the Blues, even though they're not having the season they'd hoped. But he's definitely been making a contribution there.
And 60 games this season, 10 goals, 12 assists, and 22 points for Kevin Hayes as a member of the St. Louis Blues. Let's take our last time out. We'll get you ready. We'll tell you about the line combinations for this game tonight. Who's in, who's out? Well, you'll find out coming up right after this. You're listening to Flyers Game Day on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.
This is Fanatic Flyers pregame show on the Flyers Broadcast Network.
When the deadline's looming like this, and I feel like it is this one as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I don't think this year's any different. There certainly is not the scepter of like what we had 2 years ago when the Flyers were out of the playoffs and Claude Giroux was on an expiring contract, and you knew that he was going to be moving on. The Flyers have, a few guys on expiring contracts. Easy for me to say. Mostly. Most notably Nick Seeler and Sean Walker, guys that have been attracting attention from around the league. But the Flyers are in an interesting spot with where they're at right now. The philosophy hasn't changed around this team, but I think what the success of this team this year has done is it's driven the prices up. The Flyers are going to be asking for more for guys than they would be if they weren't in the playoffs, if this wasn't a playoff team. And so, I think they're more than happy to let this group stand and take a run with it. They're also, you're also going to listen. If they get a deal that knocks their socks off, they're going to go. But, the notion of trading Sean Walker or Nick Seeler, I mean, if it's going to keep you from having a playoff run that gives you experience that these young kids need, then it's not worth a 4th, 5th, 6th round pick. If it's higher rounds, then let's talk. But it's not just the matter of player for asset. It's where can the Flyers go in the meantime that grows the players they have.
Yeah, no question about it. So it'll be a very interesting week, and one where you make sure your phone's not too far from you at all times, because you just never know when something may or may not happen. Like we were eating dinner tonight, and all of a sudden we find out Lindy Ruff was fired. What? I didn't see that coming.
Have to do this at the weirdest times, don't they?
They do, and just when you're not expecting it. So we'll see what this week has to offer in that regards. Let's get to the Flyers lineup and line combinations. The top line for the Flyers. And this one was good in the last game, Smitty. Lawton, Farabee, Forster. They're once again together in this game. I like this line, too, because I like Farabee with Forster. And because Farabee's a guy that'll go to the front of the net. Forster's a guy that is beginning to take more shots and has just shown a knack since he's been back. I mean, Forster, you just feel like the confidence is just growing game by game at this point.
Yeah, I asked him that today. I was kind of curious, do you feel like you're taking a step here? And he never really is one to come out and really open up to you. But it seems to me that not only did he not miss a beat while he was injured, but he's gotten better than he was before the injury in the last few games. The thing about that line that's kind of cool is that I think Scott Lawton and Tyson Forrester might be the Flyers' 2 best forwards in terms of puck retrieval. And so you got guys going out there, if the puck's free, one of them is going to get it, and then you're going to spring the other 2, something like that. That's that's part of what led to Forrester's penalty shot the other night was his defense and forcing that turnover. Those guys, are the hot hands right now, and John Tortorella they're going to put together the hot hands on any given night right now, and that's what he's doing.
And the second line for the Flyers is, as I've termed it, the set it and forget it line. Paling, Cates, and Hathaway. I feel like Noah Cates is playing much better. He's starting to look like Noah Cates that we're used to from last year as he gets reassimilated from the injury. It's Frost, Tippett, and Atkinson. And then the fourth line, Sean Couturier. Here's where there's a change. No Nick Delarier in the lineup tonight, but Sean Couturier going to play in the middle of 2 young players, Ule Lixell and Bobby Brink. So that'll be an interesting combo to keep an eye on.
That could be a sneaky good line, huh?
Yeah.
We'll see. They're not going to get a ton of minutes. You're still going to see Sean Couturier jumping up every now and then, but that's the only change is Delorier out and Lixell in. And just like we saw Bobby have a good rebound game after that little issue the other night in Washington. Now it's Ole's turn to have a bit of a rebound game after sitting the other night. So we'll see how he responds. Yeah, and
I think John Tortorella, he's running 12-6 again tonight, and fully recognizing the 3-4 and 15 games in 30 days that he's got to be able to roll 4 lines to keep his guys' energy level up as well. I think that's part of maybe some of the decision-making going here as well in regards to the lineup. York and Sanheim together once again, Sealer and Walker. Nothing's changed there. It'll be Stahl and Zamula. And Sam Harrison grabs the crease once again for the Flyers, and he'll go up against one of the guys that I have such a mixed bag of feelings about because I love goaltenders, but I'm not a huge fan of Jordan Binnington. I don't know what it is. It just never rubbed me the right way. But Flyers will look to put a lot in his grill because he's the guy that will react to a lot of traffic around him as well. But stay tuned. Tim Saunders, Todd Fedoruk. Countdown to faceoffs coming up next, followed by the Flyers and the Blues. You've been listening The Flyers game day on the BetRivers.com. Flyers Broadcast Network.